gentrification is alive. They're getting rid of family, neighborhood type businesses. Those are all gone. Quinceañera shop at $10,000 a month, coffee shop at $40K. Who pays more taxes? Who gains from that? The city does. The city will get more taxes from the revenues that are being generated from these businesses. Same with apartments. But it also makes me think 10, 15, 20, 30 years from now, what happens if every single place that you can think of then gets gentrified? Once everything gentrifies and it gets really expensive, there's gonna be less middle class, more lower class, and more higher class. I mean, it's gonna be a definite division between the two. Welcome back to episode number 19 on the Facts of Life podcast, where on every single episode, we will have a different meaning for the acronym LIFE. Gentrification is a big topic today, and we're going to dive right on in. I think that a good example is when my parents came here from Vietnam in the 1970s. Their first place that they lived was in the city of Los Angeles. It was a neighborhood called Echo Park, had Echo Park Lake, and it was just gang infested. Partially why they moved is because there was a police investigation. They were here for about a year and a half or whatnot. And towards the end of the time that they were staying here, they realized that the home was under investigation for murder. Someone had been shot in the house before and it freaked them out, so they moved. But back in the 1970s, these properties were, $50,000. No one would buy them because it was so bad, right? And look at us here today. It's been gentrified. It's very diverse now culturally. You got Asian people, white people. I mean, just Mexicans and blacks. I mean, everybody's mixed in now. And these properties are starting like $1 million. Where are the gang members? Where did everyone go? Let's talk about that today. So today, the L in life is about the lords, or also known as the landlords. Whether they're private or it's a corporation that's buying up these neighborhoods and they're building coffee shops selling $7 lattes, or they're getting rid of all the old school family neighborhood type businesses. Those are all gone. Right? I mean, if we're talking about Echo Park, a prime example of where my family grew up in Los Angeles, where are all these people going and, what are they doing? And how are the landlords protecting the people that have to vacate in order for the properties to gentrify? Well, if we're talking about Los Angeles in particular, there are a couple things that are put in place so that the tenants who currently live in these properties can vacate. One of the things that they have is the cash for keys offer. You're offering them whatever the rent is or moving costs may be in order for them to take this money and to agree to vacate. Otherwise, you can't demolish, you can't rebuild, you can't start any type of construction. So how much are these fees going for? Well, they start at like $5,000. If they're getting $5,000 minimum to vacate the property in order for construction to start or for rehabbing to begin, what do they do with that $5,000? Is that enough? What do you do with that? Well, that's a great question, because now that fee in Los Angeles in particular is going up to $20,000 per door. It's not that easy, or as easy as you think it is, in order to vacate tenants that are in a property. You may have somebody in downtown LA, in Boyle Heights, let's say. What's popular? Quinceañera shops. They sell these dresses. They're really formal for quinceañera parties for teenage girls that are coming to become women. And a lot of these shops are just going down. What are they getting paid to vacate? Well, because it's a business, I've seen some of them pay $25,000 to $30,000 for them to vacate the property as a tenant in order for the new landlords to come in to gentrify, to build, to rehab, and to build it into that prime coffee shop selling $7 to $9 lattes. The second thing that is happening here that the landlords have to abide by as far as laws goes is rent control. In certain cities or certain areas, you can only raise rents by so much. That means that if you have a current tenant, you can only raise rent so much. Maybe this is part of the reason as to why gentrification is alive. If I'm a landlord and I've owned a building for 30 years, and that tenant is paying $1,500 a month in rent, when rents today are going for $3,000 to $4,000 each, my costs have gone up, my maintenance cost has gone up, my water bill, my electricity bill has gone up. However, I'm stuck in rent control and I cannot raise it. The only way to do that is to vacate or to sell the property or to get the tenant out of the building in order to raise all the rents up. And here I am, as all my neighbors are gentrifying and all these buildings are going up in value. Am I stuck with $1,500 a month in rent on my 10-unit apartment building that I have, therefore starting to lose money because I can't do anything else with it? It's tough. And it goes back and forth as to what to do if you were a landlord, as far as being tied down by rent control. And also, in order to circumvent the rent control rules, I've now got to do cash for keys where I have to pay my tenant to move out in order to get them out of the property so that I can do my upgrades that I need to get everything modernized and really raise my rents. So what does the government have to say about this? What do they do? What's their part? Well, that leads us into our next part of our podcast, which is the I in life, involvement. What is the city involvement? What is the government involvement? What does the county say? What do they say about all these people getting moved out, and where do they go? Exactly. Well, I'll give you a very good example. In downtown LA, this is about, 12 years ago. I think it was like in 2010, 2012, when many areas of Los Angeles was getting really gentrified. You want to ask the question, okay, cash for keys and rent control. All these people are getting moved out. And this was like gang-infested areas. Where did everyone go? Did gang violence just stop? No, it did not. Where did they go? Well, I'll give you one good example. Victorville, which is the high desert of Southern California, Victorville, Hesperia area, for example, a lot of LA residents moved out to the high deserts where it was a lot more affordable. So then gang violence and crime rates really went up at a very high pace in Victorville because a lot of the people from LA migrated out to Victorville because they had nowhere else to go. Yes, they got a $10,000 check to vacate their Los Angeles apartment. And now they're all moving out. You got to think, once we do gentrify, where does everyone go? And is that up to the city? Are they going to be involved in that? Again, I in Life today is involvement, meaning the city, the government. What are they going to do about all this? Is the government a silent partner in gentrification? Does the city want gentrification to happen? Or are they here to protect their citizens and the people that live in the cities? I think as a real estate investor myself, that's a really tough question. On one hand, what is it doing? I do believe that it's making the area safer to live in. I mean, for example, all the gang violence that migrated to Victorville in this example has caused LA lower crime rates in certain areas. Echo Park, $1 million a home. Who can live there? If you're a gangster or you're a criminal, you probably can't afford to live in a neighborhood like that. So you've been washed out. But now is it somebody else's problem? Is it another city's problem? Is it the city here that no longer needs to deal with that? And we all know that as a city or a government, quinceañera shop producing, $10,000 a month in revenue, or a supreme hipster coffee shop who will move in, pay high rents, and probably does $40,000 a month in revenue on a monthly basis at a minimum. Quinceañera shop at $10,000 a month, coffee shop at $40K. Who pays more taxes? Who gains from that? The city does. The city will get more taxes from the revenues that are being generated from these businesses. Same with apartments. Same with housing. Property values in Echo Park at $70K back in the day. And let's say that Echo Park did not gentrify. Let's say it did not. In the state of California and the city and county all mixed in, our property taxes are about 1.125% of the property value. If the property stayed status quo and did not move or did not go up in value, and it stayed at $70,000 like they were back in the 1970s, well, the 70s pricing then compared to today, let's say it stayed in the same condition, no gentrification, it would still be naturally at least $500,000 to $600,000, but they're not. They're double that now. Because of the gentrification, they are starting at $1 million, 1.1, 1.2 mil. What does that mean exactly? Well, now your taxation's higher, isn't it? Now you're making 1.125% of taxes on the $1 million, not like the old 500,000. So there's a benefit for every government organization for gentrification to happen. Home prices go up, more revenue, more higher rent. Everything changes, and there's more money that still continues to come in. However, my question still stands. What are we doing with all the people that need to vacate? Where do they go? Where are they going exactly? So with that said, we already established that there's rent control, which is put in place to help a lot of these tenants and folks who have been there for a very long time. The second part is, we have the cash for keys. Think about this. Is this hush money? Or is it really the money there that is being used to help people vacate and to move and to pay for certain costs? One could argue that it's one or the other, could be a little bit of both, or that most people will really agree with the fact that it's really for hush money because more people benefit off of gentrification. Therefore, having these people vacate is the main plan. That leads us into the next part of our podcast, which is the L.I.F.E for friction. There's a lot of friction that goes on while a community or a neighborhood is in the middle of gentrification. You have the new people moving in, and you still have a mixture of the old people that still represent the neighborhood that have been there for a very long time. And then we see it on the news all the time, these protests and all the old neighborhood people just being really angry, upset at the new developers, the new landlords, the new tenants, the costs that are rising, the rent that costs so much more than it used to. And they're just upset about people being kicked out of their own neighborhoods. These are people that grew up in these neighborhoods. It's all they know. And they're sitting here watching across the street, big buildings coming up, coffee shops kicking in. And they know, too, that at some point they will not be able to afford living in their own neighborhood that they grew up in. What does that cause? It causes friction. Again, the L.I.F.E for friction is a really big problem. How do we deal with that? And who is putting rules in place to make sure that the friction is really staying as calm as possible? If you ask me, I think the real friction is really in the Cash for Keys program. You got to, if you research it, look it up. It's really controversial, actually. A lot of people have a problem with the Cash for Keys program, depending on what neighborhood or what city you're in. However, there's been a lot of friction over that just in itself. Are tenants getting lowballed? Is this really a genuine amount of money that's being utilized to help them move forward with the next part of their life, or just to help them vacate so that the money guys could start doing what they do? And there's a lot of controversy there within itself. And it's sad because the tenants see this amount of money that's pretty grand to them. If it's 17 grand, let's say, and you're making, I don't know, minimum wage, and you've been renting here for a very low amount of payments, it's easy to woo somebody with $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 of cash in a lump sum, which a lot of people have never been able to obtain that much cash at any given time. So now that we're offering that, and that's a controversy, right? What do they do with that? Is it enough? There's been protests. There's been a lot of uprise in different communities. LA is one of the worst ones that I've seen, only because I'm local here and I see what's going on, and I do real estate in Los Angeles as well. And so we see what's going on, and it's very mixed. The whole thing is very, very mixed. These are all the questions that I pose, that I bring up, because it makes me wonder a lot, what happens on both sides. I see both benefits on both sides, but I see both, pros and cons on both sides. That brings us into the last part of our podcast, which is the E in life, the exchange. Is it worth it? Is the exchange worth it? Gentrification brings many pros, but it also brings out many cons, as we have discussed here over the last segment here in my podcast. These are all the things that I think about that are really concerning. This is real life. This is happening. But it also makes me think 10, 15, 20, 30 years from now, what happens if every single place that you can think of then gets gentrified, right? What if rents and costs go up so sky high? Where does the major population get pushed to at some point? Where are they going to go? We're talking about pockets and cities and neighborhoods right now. What if it's whole regions that are being gentrified? Where does everybody go? Do they just get pushed out to desert states where there's not a whole lot of people that, live there now? What happens with finances? Or does that mean that everybody's just now pushed and pressured to make more money to be able to live where they want to live? Does that make a bigger push towards the high class versus low class, and therefore getting rid of the middle class? That's really what's happening, right? Everybody, once everything gentrifies and it gets really expensive, there's going to be less middle class, more lower class, and more higher class. It's going to be a definite division between the two. And I think that with gentrification, that's the exchange that we're going to see. That's the exchange, or the issues that we're going to be dealing with when you see gentrification spread like a disease. throughout the whole United States of America. Can it ever be balanced? I don't know. Can it ever be where we gentrify? However, we still make things affordable? I don't know if it goes together. I don't know if that will ever really work. And is the exchange worth it? Is it worth it clearing up Echo Park of gang violence and robberies and thieving and rape and murder to where it is today? It's artistic, lots of cultural diversity. There's a lot more social interacting that's gone on in the whole neighborhood than in the last 50 years. That's a positive. I think that's fantastic. The suffering is the people who used to live there and called it home for so many years that now have to vacate and go make home somewhere else. Is it worth it? Is it worth the change? Maybe it is now. Perhaps it's definitely worth the exchange today. But the outcome of all these lower class folks who have to then vacate, got to check one time, cash for keys to move, and now have to vacate, maybe that's not the future. Maybe we need to think a little bit more ahead to figure out what the true equal or fair way to deal with gentrification is before it's too late. With that said, today, everybody, I hope you enjoyed my episode of The Facts of Life, talking about gentrification, something that's really been on my mind. Subscribe, like, comment if you like what you heard. I'll see you in the next episode.